Yeah.
So for someone listening to this podcast that's like in that 9 to 5, they got there, they found themselves there because they thought it was the only option. They really want to start a business. They really want to be helping people. They want to change their life. They want the freedom. But maybe they feel like, well, I don't have the money to start a business. I don't have the money to like hire a coach. Like, or maybe I don't have the time. What is your advice for people that just feel like they're trapped?
Honestly, I think the majority of people don't have the time or have the money to start a business. You know, I did not have the time or the money to start a business. So much of my business was funded through Depop and promo work and all these, any kind of job I could get my hands on, you know?
Depop is like reselling used clothes,
Yeah,
by the way, everyone.
Yeah, reselling used clothes. So basically anything that I could find to sell, nothing was safe, even Jake's stuff sometimes. He was like,
Jake's like, where did my jeans go?
Literally, it was, honestly, it was awful. I was like, anything. I was like, are you done with that? Like, let's sell it. Like, let's
That
like.
is hilarious.
Oh yeah, like I was like doing everything and anything. So I totally understand and I totally resonate when people say, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. But I also think, you know, the excuses we argue for are the ones that we get to keep. So the longer that you stay in that story, the longer you're going to stay stuck there. So it really becomes a case of making time, you know, how can you do an hour before work? How can you do an hour after work or before the kids wake up or after the kids wake up? You know, I work with a lot of mums as well. And oh my God, those women are superheroes, but they make it work. They find the time, you know, it's not someone waves a magic wand and suddenly all this magic time appears. Unfortunately, life is rarely like that. And the same goes with money. You know, I had to have a radical conversation with myself as well about a lot of the ways I was spending money. And it's amazing now I'm saying, oh, I get to say yes to friends so much. That means so much to me because for such a long time I said no. For a really long time, I was the person who would say no to going out for dinner or I couldn't go on that trip. And I'm not advocating for that necessarily either. I'm just saying that I had to prioritize where my money went. And I think it's so easy just to lean into, I don't have time or I don't have money. But when you actually stop and say, hang on a minute, if I actually shifted a few things around, how could I make this work? If I actually gave this all my fire and all my energy for the next 3, 6, 12 months, how much extra time could I find? And it's amazing that when you actually look at the opportunity rather than all the obstacles, little pockets appear. You know, I'm studying this year, you know, you've done the qualification. It is so time intensive. I do not have time for it. But I find pockets of time, you know, I'm looking forward to this weekend, spending my Saturdays studying, you know, you can make things work. I think so much of it is just about being willing to find, and it not being perfect either, you know, instead of waiting to find this completely free day or this completely free week, being like, cool, I got 20 minutes. I can write an Instagram post then, or I can send some emails out on my lunch break. That was the other thing. I used to do so much on my lunch break, you know, take my full lunch break, go to the Starbucks next door. It sold tea that was like the cheapest thing you could buy. And I would sit on my laptop and I'd just like go at things.
Yeah. I think when you want something, you make it work. And when
100%.
you're really connected to the why that you want that, then you just figure it out. You find a way. You just figure it out. You know? And I think if you don't really want it, or if you're not connected to the reason why, you just think that looks nice, you're not going to find those times. You're going to find those excuses instead.
100%. I think it's if you're not connected to the reason why, but also if you're waiting for someone to save you.
Exactly.
And I think if I'm being honest, I spent a lot of my life waiting for someone to save me. You know, I just thought things were going to start to magically appear in my life or things were just going to unfold. And even when I started coaching, I was like, oh, like, I'm sure someone will realize I'm an amazing coach and just start to work with me, you know?
That's totally like the maiden archetype, which is like waiting for the prince to come, waiting to be discovered, waiting for someone to choose you until she realizes, wow, like I'm the one. I have to choose myself. It's time for me to step into my queendom and my power and stop waiting for someone else to just come along and make it better.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's hard for women. I think we all watched Disney growing up and we all have the stories of the prince coming in and coming to save you. And I think even though it's hard for me to admit, I think there was part of me that thought, well, I'm sure one day it'll all work out, or my husband will be earning more than me, or this will happen, or this will happen. And, you know, actually realizing like we get to be our own saviors. We get to be the person that creates these things, and how empowering that is. It really it's exciting that we get to do that.
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear if you see that same pattern sometimes play out in the coaching space, right? Because you see you have a lot of clients, you have a lot of people in your container, and you know, do you feel like people are kind of wanting someone to come along and say, here are all the answers, you know, here's how to do everything step by step by step? Because personally, anytime I've ever worked with someone that has given me the steps, I've followed the steps and it hasn't worked. The only time that it's worked has been when I've taken their steps, taken inspiration, and then done my own thing, trusted myself, trusted my intuition.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I have to take responsibility as well, because I think I'm also part of, not necessarily purposefully, but I do think sometimes people are seeing coaches on Instagram and seeing what's happening, and business coaches saying, well, I can give you these steps. And they're just taking that as like, it's like a plug and play. Yeah. As in, I literally just plug this in and then I get this out the other side. And I think it's really important that people remember to bring themselves in. And, you know, when you say that, what I hear is like your intuition coming through and your innate guidance and your innate creativity and your innate wisdom, like allowing that to flow through. And I do think there can be, I have come across it where it's, you know, oh, but I did this, this, and this, and it didn't work.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, you know, did you try this? What about this? And like, what can you learn from next time? I think that's the other thing, like moving away from this. This is something I've been talking about so much recently and I'm so passionate about, is moving away from this instant win kind of mentality. And like, oh my God, it's amazing when you have those moments of quantum leaping. You know, I've had it in my business. I've had clients have it in their businesses. But I think sometimes we forget the beauty of the growth and the journey to get there, and how much wisdom comes from that, and how much personal healing comes from that as well. You know, if you've ever had a failed launch, like the personal shit you have to work through that comes up when your launch is bombing is real, you know?
Yeah, and that's really valuable.
So valuable, you know? And it's not just valuable for your business, it's valuable for you as a person. Those lessons that you learn, you get to ripple out across your life and your family and your friendships and your relationships. Like, it's so valuable. And I think it's moving away from this mentality of like, I did something once and it didn't work, therefore I'm going to give up and everything's just going to shit, to, okay, I'm in this for the long haul. This is a journey. This is like a marathon, not a sprint, you know? How can I integrate these lessons? How can I look at these parts of myself that's coming up? And how can I still build something for the long term rather than just, oh, that didn't work once, I give up.
Yeah. Yeah, and building a business really is a personal growth journey. You're going to do a lot of shadow work along the way. You're going to learn a lot about yourself, and we have to embrace that. You know, every time something comes up that's like been a challenge, been a failure, because trust me, there's plenty of them. We get to look at that, you know, and we get to work through that, and we get to heal that, and we get to evolve from that. And you're right. I think there is sometimes a mentality of like, how can I get from point A to point B as fast as possible? And the universe is not going to do that for you, right? Because you're meant to learn certain lessons along the way. You're meant to heal and grow in a certain direction. And I think when you come into this industry, you have to really be willing to commit to like, I'm in this for the long game and I'm in this for the marathon, and not come into it with like a sprint approach.